Hi everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show, which is the UK's only TV programme that's dedicated to your mental health and well-being. We've titled this show today, Men Open Up, because as we know, a lot of men find it difficult to open up about what they're feeling. Now, according to the Samaritans, men remain more than 3 times more likely to take their own lives than women across the UK and the Republic of Ireland. One of the reasons for this, as stated in the Daily Mail, is that men find it more difficult to talk about their feelings and are more likely to turn to risky behaviour when they're depressed. And this is what our show will be centred on today, why many men don't like to open up and what we can do to change that. My guests today are going to help answer these questions. We have our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, who'll be giving me her thoughts, as well as the host of popular relationships show Love Talk, James and Helena Marquez, along with Father Phil Lamb, who co-founded the award-winning mental health project Blokes United. Something else that many men typically don't like to do is visit their doctor. So later we have a special Doctor's Answer segment with Dr. Rob Hicks. But first, I'm very happy to welcome Helena back on the show, and she's going to be giving us some male-focused news. Welcome to the show, Helena.
Thank you, Chrissy.
So do the men in your life open up generally, or?
They do, actually.
Really? That's good.
They do.
Yeah.
Although I have a couple of friends who are not as open. And you're obviously going to meet people like that, aren't you?
Yeah.
And especially family members, I think, probably are more closed. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I've got some fun news. Starting with, so many say that the best therapist has fur and 4 legs.
Okay.
And I actually truly do believe that. So which moves on lovely to... we spoke a while ago about a street cat named Bob.
Yes.
About James Bowen and his struggle. When he was younger, he was diagnosed with various mental illness, homeless for 10 years, quite a distraught life, didn't really want to live, heroin addict. But now the fantastic film that we spoke about is going to be seen, and we all must go and see it, because I don't know if you've seen the clips, but it looks wonderful.
Okay.
So, and obviously Bob is the cat that saved him. And it's a really, truly remarkable, real story. And I've never, ever seen a cat that's so tame. I mean, he's just like a dog, and he plays the role in the film.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that.
It was a cat, actually, that saved. Do you remember Paul Connolly's story? Yes. When he had literally, if you missed that show, guys, you've got to catch it on our YouTube channel. He actually had the gun in his mouth already and was about to kill himself. And the cat came to his shoulder and stopped him from doing it just by nuzzling on his ear, and he stopped. That's amazing. Cats are amazing.
See, 4 legs and fur. Very, very true. Anyway, so it's such a lovely story, so we've all got to see it. Yeah. Moving on to Kid Cudi. He's the Ohio rap artist, and he's been sparking conversation on depression, race and rap. And the thing about it, he's recently checked himself into rehab, and rather than try and hide it, he's been very open about it. He's been on social media, very moving little verse in a way that he's been writing, and he's been telling fans that he's been living a lie, and he wants to open up, that he's not been happy, suicidal thoughts, but now it's time for him. And he's going to sort himself out.
Great.
Which is so good. So hashtag you good man. So people have been talking about masculinity and depression, which is really good.
Yeah, very good.
All about talking.
Yes.
And a young man called Kenneth Todd Nelson, he wrote an article which was very interesting. I know what it's like to be a black man living with depression. And he's talking about how among African American men, talking about your feelings is not always welcomed or encouraged. Which is so sad. It
is very much a cultural thing as well. I mean, there are cultures that are more sort of open and stuff, but others that if a man talks about their problems, they're seen as very weak, very...
Yeah, and it's not. It's being strong, opening up. But anyway, the good thing about it, he said he couldn't believe when Kid Cudi revealed everything on Facebook, because it was like him, and he just said it was... He felt monumental. It was just the best thing ever. Yeah. Which is such a strong word, isn't it? It's quite powerful. Moving on to Prince Harry, lovely Prince Harry. Not spoken about him for a while.
Your favourite?
Yeah, I do like him, I do. So he's actually meeting up with the horse whisperer, and he's learning secrets. pioneering treatment to help veterans with PTSD, which is obviously one of his charities. The Californian cowboy Monty Roberts, he's 81 now, but he really is very special. And he's been the Queen's advisor, I think, for 25 years. And he's already transformed the lives of US veterans with psychological problems, and really quite amazing. And the whole thing is, it's the all-important moment of causing a horse to trust you can be a very powerful catalyst for finding hope and positivity as part of recovery. Wow. So you can just imagine that kind of bond, which is good. Donald Trump, naughty Donald Trump, I'm not going to say too much, but he was in a great big hall with veterans, and he suddenly talked about how veterans suffering from PTSD are not strong and are unable to handle their experiences in combat, just in the middle of this conversation, which complete uproar.
Oops.
Quite typical.
Yes.
Just thought I'd put that in because it's just such an awful thing, but you know.
What can you say?
I know, what can you say about that one? An interesting one from Mike Lanza. Now, he lives in California, and he says, let kids play. And he thinks that kids, he uses that word, children have to find their own balance of power and destiny to be confident and happy, and actually says that about boys more, because research suggests that controlling helicopter parents, less flexible, more vulnerable, the children are anxious. Yeah. And he's got this great big setup in the garden, which is, I mean, in a way it's slightly dangerous, it's physical risks the children take, but they do become really quite happy and confident. So there's something in that.
Well, I have heard about research before that when parents are really, really strict, it can lead to certain issues that the kids will have later because they're quite fearful of doing anything.
No, absolutely. And the reason he did it was because there were quite a high rate of suicide where he was, and the children were just depressed. So good for him. Another great piece in the Telegraph by Matt Haig. Men need to open up about depression, not man up and keep quiet. So it's that whole man up thing. Yeah. You know, you've got to be vulnerable, and it's just, you know, it's a strength. So he's written a book, Reasons to Stay Alive, and he talks about his 15 years of depression and how, you know, he's overcome it. He's really thankful for life, and we should all be encouraging men to talk. And finally, as we are finishing, we all must watch Frank Bruno. He's on Channel 5, I think, on Tuesday, next Tuesday on Channel 5, yes. Me and My Mental Illness. So that should be a good watch.
We'll tune in for that. Thank you so much, Helena. Thank you. And we'll see you again soon. Actually, we are beginning a brand new section with the lovely Helena. So do stay tuned because you're going to be hearing more lovely stuff that we're going to be coming up with for you, our viewers at home. Right, guys, so before we head to our first break, here is what our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, had to say about encouraging men to open up.
Hi, Chrissy. Thanks for having me. Fascinating topic again. Maleness and femaleness are often socially constructed concepts. So what I mean by that is, in the UK, we're very used to women being a certain way because that's how the culture is, how our literature has been, how our behaviour has been through the years, how history has been. But in other places, this may be a little bit different. There was a piece of research done, I think sometime in the 50s or 60s, where they looked at a tribe where the men did the conventionally female roles. The men were the ones who were doing the cooking, the cleaning, and they were the ones also engaging in gossip, wondering what other people were doing, whilst the women were going out to work. Now, although our traditional gender roles had switched in this particular tribe, no one found that strange. So, in many ways, we can construct male and female behaviours to be a certain way. So the reason why men do tend to find it harder to open up is perhaps because there is still an expectation that they are the one who is strong, they are the one who is the provider, they are the one who mustn't show their emotions. And if you are living under that cultural stereotype or umbrella, it can be quite difficult to break out of it because you fear looking a little bit strange if you suddenly do become emotional. However, there are other things to consider as well, and this is true of male and females, but also just people in general. We all express ourselves in different ways, and just because someone expresses themselves in a way that's different to us, it doesn't mean that they're not expressing their feelings. We just have to make sure we're reading them in the same way. And the easiest thing to do really is just to ask, how do you want love to be expressed? Recently, in a coaching situation, a couple was having a few difficulties, and one of the things was the woman was feeling the man wasn't expressing quite so much, but the man's response was, well, I've said I love you. If anything changes, I'll let you know. The man was thinking in this particular case, and it may have been a woman, because when we can be just as differently expressive, he felt, well, I've said it, and if I need to say anything else, then I will when the time comes. If that's not enough, then it is important to ask about it. The other thing that's peculiar to men as well is that men sometimes express things physically. So instead of being able to explain depression as a feeling, they often describe it as a physical awareness, a tightness in the chest or a heaviness. So again, we need to attune to how that person is expressing how they feel. In many ways, society has changed the way we communicate. It can make it a little bit easier, because using all the social media platforms means that if we find it difficult to express ourselves face to face, we may be better doing it in writing, so at least the words are getting out there. Forums are a good way to express oneself as well. However, the whole problem with social media is that the opinions you're hearing may not be professional ones. People will be talking about their own experience only. So the advice and information that you can get from that particular outlet may not be the best around. The other problem with social media is that if we don't like talking face to face anyway, the ability to be able to send a text, the ability to put something on any of those numerous platforms we can use, means that we are again one step removed from practicing talking to somebody and actually expressing ourselves face to face, and that can be a problem as well. Sadly, we do judge men negatively when they express themselves, if they're crying and so on, because culturally, as I've said with social constructionism, we have been brought up in many ways to expect the man to be the strong one, the man to do the difficult jobs, to face the confrontations. And not many men, or not all men, want to behave in that way. Similarly, there can be something that we do as well when a man does open up to us, and that is behave negatively or in a way that they might perceive as negative. If somebody opens up to us and we're so delighted that suddenly we say, oh my goodness, that's wonderful, come and talk to me, and we shower them with even more emotion, it's taken so much effort to say something in the first place that us showering them with even more emotion can actually push them back again into their shells. So women, please be a little bit careful. If a man has decided to open up, it doesn't mean that he's opened the gateway for all of your emotion to come in. He is just letting some of his emotion out. Now, while I say we judge men negatively, actually what I really mean is we judge people, or we tend to judge people negatively if they don't express themselves in the way that we expect to express ourselves. And that's really because we choose a certain way of self-expression because we're comfortable with it and it served us well. What we need to remember is our way is not the only way. 4 + 4 = 8, but then so does 5 + 3. So does 4 × 2. There are many ways of getting to the same outcome. What we do have to do is learn how somebody chooses to express themselves and work it out from there. What are they really trying to say to us? The first piece of advice I would give to somebody who is having trouble expressing themselves verbally is to actually use some of the other outlets of expression, such as writing something down or even drawing it. That way you get the thoughts a little bit more crystallized, and then it becomes easier to have that face-to-face conversation because you've got almost an agenda or a thought process to speak to. However, and this is a word of advice to anybody who's having one of those difficult conversations, try to have it when you're calm. If you have it whilst you're in a heightened state of emotion, all that's going to happen is it will become an attack and a defense. It becomes a battleground. Rather than working together to sort something out, which is a lot easier when the high levels of emotion are taken out of it, all that happens is we get very, very defensive because we're so emotional. So one of the best things to do if you're going to have a difficult conversation is wait a time that you're calm, and then it becomes more of a fact-finding and collaborative approach to find a solution. It's not easy though, I do totally appreciate that. Other things that are quite specific for men are things like the Haynes manual now, which is the car manual that's been around for a long time, but there's something called the man manual, because the idea is, of course, if it looks like something men might want to have, they're more likely to read it. And also there's a number of forums and magazines that men can use to learn a little bit more about mental health issues and how it might be affecting them. There's even GPs online where you can email your problem through and you'll get a response. A word of warning there though, the response can only ever be as good as your description of the problem. And if you aren't able to really fully describe that issue and the person who you're talking to is not able to check back with you, that can cause issues too, because communication is only ever as good as the message that's been received. The last thing that's starting to happen now in the mental health field for men is the reframing of certain mental health support that's out there. So instead of going to stress counselling, you can actually go to stress consultancy. Putting it in a business frame of mind sometimes makes it a little bit easier to go, because if we were struggling in business, we would seek help in that. It's not quite the same for our mental health, which is a real shame. But that's true for men or for women. So what's really important is there is help out there. Find the type of help that you are comfortable getting, but please, please do seek help, because it is important, and communication is one of the most important but also fulfilling things that we can ever do.
Welcome back to today's program, which is all about men opening up. And this is, of course, the Chrissy B Show, your place for mental health and well-being. So now I'm joined by presenters of Love Talk, James and Helena Marquez. It's lovely to have you guys back on. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
Okay, so no problems opening up, you two, because you've been through a few things and you're very open to talking, and now you're helping other couples.
That's right.
And singles, actually.
But it wasn't always like that.
No,
Yeah,
I know.
that's right.
But you've come a long way.
Yeah.
So for the new viewers that are watching, what is Love Talk all about? Can you just let us know?
Well, our work has different aspects. So we have our programs every week here on my channel, which talks about how to have successful relationships and how to prepare yourself for a relationship if you're single. Yeah. But we also hold seminars, and we actually just finished a marriage course for 7 weeks this week. Wow. And we do one-to-one advice sessions as well.
Amazing. So you've obviously spoken to a lot of people with all kinds of relationship
free of charge.
issues.
We do this to help the community and anyone.
Amazing.
I like to mention that because sometimes people think, oh, I'm sure they charge like £200 an hour. We don't.
Wonderful.
We do that and through a charity. We want to help people.
That's amazing. Yeah. All right. So, and now they're helping our viewers here on the show. So, men opening up, our topic for today, because men very well known for not really talking about their feelings too much. Were you ever like this, James?
Absolutely.
Or are you like that?
I'm still a little bit like that.
Yeah, so please enlighten us.
And I think
Why?
I think
like that?
what is important to understand is that, and we have said this here in your show before, men and women are different, and you cannot try to put them in the same category. We are different. Women have a very strong sense of community, and as soon as they're going through a problem, they will look to talk to someone about it. And men are, because we have it in our DNA that we have to be the providers, that we have to be, and if we're not, then we may seem weak. So men tend to go into their own shell. Yeah. Do I still do that? Not as much as before, but I do tend, if I'm going through a problem, eventually I will go and talk to Elena, but not immediately. So I will need a little bit of time to put my thoughts together, and then I'll go to her. But it is a weakness not opening up. You have to open up. But I think people have to understand, to us men, it doesn't come naturally to do that.
Okay.
So it's a weakness not to open up. But men usually think the other way around.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
And I think the wife or the girlfriend or the partner plays a huge role in this. Because I remember in the beginning of our marriage, I used to get really frustrated because he doesn't talk, so I'm thinking all sorts of things. I don't know why is he behaving like this? Why is he so quiet? And I was always like, what's going on? What am I not doing? you know, all silly things come through your mind. But now I deal with it differently. It has changed, but I respect, what's the word, masculinity?
Or I would say my space.
Yeah, your space. Yeah. And also him being a man, because, you know, many women, from talking to a few, they want to turn their husbands or partners into like girlfriends, and it doesn't work. Yeah. You know, you need to respect, and then I'll give him space, I'll be less talkative, or I think he needs time, so, you know, respect.
But in a case where there is a serious issue going on in the relationship, and maybe the woman wants to talk about things, and then her partner just shuts down, how would you encourage, or what advice, first of all, from a man's point of view, what advice would you give to that man that is very close, and when there's something that they need to talk about, and they just don't want to talk?
Yeah. Well, let me just say, first of all, from a woman's perspective, the worst thing you can do if you're trying to get your man to open up is to keep going on about it and say, why don't you open up, and try to force that to happen. The more you do that, the less he will do it. Okay. And I think for a man, what is important for men to understand is that for you to say to that person who's with you, your life partner, that you are going through a problem or that something's not right, it doesn't mean that you're less of a man. Actually, it's a great sign of strength to ask for help. Okay, asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's not a sign that you failed. And I think that's what many men think. If you ask for help, or if you say, I'm struggling with this, then I failed. If you ask for help, it's a sign that you trust the person who's with you. And just for me to finalize this point, a conversation about something that is really serious and important to you, sometimes you don't know how to start, but if you just start, if you just say one sentence, everything will unravel after that, and you'll see it's actually easy. It's just the starting part that people find it difficult, especially men find it difficult.
As long as obviously the partner doesn't say or do something that will make that man then go back into his shell and just shut down, because obviously she also has to be to listen and first of all, not jump in and...
And also to understand this is a very precious moment here. He's talking. Can you hear him? He's talking.
Value this moment.
Exactly. So you need to be like, oh, he's talking. Even if he's saying something that really, oh my God, really, no, pretend it's nothing major. Just go like, oh, okay, all right then, we'll work at this. You know, just pretend it's nothing major. And then later on, if depending on how huge the problem is, then you come back to it because he already spoke to you. And then you discuss it when it's more suitable for both.
Another important thing men need to understand is that the first time that you're going to talk about a problem is always very difficult because you're afraid that you'll be judged, that your partner will think less of you. But if you do it the first time, and then as you go from there, you will feel that it's easier. So next time you're going through something, you know, you won't feel afraid anymore that you'll be judged or that you'll be looked down on. And it's a really, forgive me to use this word, it's a really stupid thought to think that the person who loves you and is next to you will judge you. Surely not, but this is what goes through a man's mind. So do that once, and then the second time will be easier. And the third time will be even easier. So it becomes a common thing in the relationship. But I would just say, just to finalize, it's very important that women understand the principle of the rubber band. I don't know if you've heard about this. No?
Did you come up with that one?
No, I didn't. I actually read this somewhere, so I can't take credit for it. But it's very true. You know, they say that men are like a rubber band, okay? So sometimes when men are going through a problem, you feel them going distant. They get distant, right? So they're not talking about a problem, so they step away from you a little bit, and they want their own space. So like a rubber band, they separate. But, not separate, that's probably the wrong word. But sooner or later, as soon as you give them a little bit of time to think and process what's going on, surely they will come back. But if you push too hard, if you pressurize him to talk, you burst the rubber band, right? So you need to understand he may feel a little bit distant, he's just processing something, but he'll come back. Encourage him to talk, encourage him to come back to you with whatever he's going through, and surely that will solve the problem.
And this is why many people break up when they are about to talk about problems. I'll explain. Because they don't know. For example, the man is naturally more quiet and has all these emotions and feelings inside that he just mentioned. So if the woman is not wise and not mature, then she's going to be attacking him. She's not going to receive, she's not going to appreciate what he's doing. Okay, I hope I'm being clear here. And she's going to disregard the effort he's making, and she's going to accuse him, making him feel bad. Why didn't you speak sooner? You need to gain his trust in a way. I think, am I right? You are a man. Am I right?
Absolutely. And
you need to gain his trust.
And give him, as we said, give him his space. The principle of the rubber band, very important.
Brilliant
Can't go wrong.
advice. Thank you so much to our love experts here on the program, and we'll see you again very soon on the show.
Thank you very much for having this.
Thank you. All right, guys, so as this show is focused on men today, let's see some great fitness exercises for the males out there with our expert Benjamin Cooper.
Hi, I'm Ben, and welcome to Move 360 Studios. I'm here for the Chrissy B Show, and today we're going to be talking about male health, and particularly male health in relation to obviously exercise. I see patterns like this a lot with my clients, my male clients, in that they're tight in the hips and they're weak in the abdominals. So today I'm going to show you a few stretches to really open up the hips and get those loosened out, and also some exercises that are going to strengthen the abdominals, and I'll talk a little bit about the importance of having a strong abdominal wall in terms of organ health and general physique. So our first stretch is going to be one called 90-90 stretch. So this is called the 90-90 stretch for an obvious reason, in that it's got 90-degree angle on the back leg, 90-degree angle on the front leg. And you're going to come up into the stretch, make sure you're nice and upright, and almost stick the bum out of the back. The next one is called, I call it a frog stretch, but it's just an adductor stretch. The adductors are in the inner thigh, so it's the opposite side to the muscle we were stretching. So you go nice and wide, feet out like a duck, and then sit back into the stretch to stretch the adductors. And this is can be quite an uncomfortable stretch, but just ease into it so you can push forward and back, and then just when you find the stretch is there, just hold it and open up the hips. Again, you want to do this for about a minute at least, and you can move so you don't have to be static. Okay, so onto the abdominal exercises. This is a Swiss ball. You can go and use them in the gym. So use them in the gym. They're a great tool to create a neural response, to get feedback from the body, and to also stimulate stability in the body, which is what we're looking for when we're trying to train abdominals. Today I'm going to use it on the wall, and we're going to do a ball squat. So this is great for the pelvic floor. Squats are amazing exercise for pelvic floor, and also great for the abdominal wall. So in terms of men's health, this is very important to keep the organs in place. The abdominals are there to keep the organs in place. They're also there to look good, but we want to keep everything where it should be as well. So that's really important. So as you pop the ball about mid-back, and then as you go down, you're going to raise your arms up above your head. So get as low as you can. You don't have to go down as low as me. And just get your breathing rhythm in and really push the floor away as you come up. So the lower you go, the more you'll get on the lower abdominals, the more you'll get on the pelvic floor. So if you can get that low, just be aware of the knees if you've got any knee issues at all. Okay, so on to the next exercise. This is called a supine hip extension, feet on ball. So we're going to have a mat down. The ball's going to be at your feet this end, and you're going to put the feet on top of the ball. The arms will go out to the side, and then lift up and raise the hips up, squeezing the glutes up and down from the mat. Looks nice and easy with the arms at the side. If you want to make it harder, pop the arms across the chest and then raise up. So now we're putting a much more stability through the body, so your only point of contact is your head or your feet. Okay, so that's a lot easier with the arms out to the side. Across the chest is a lot harder, and that's a progression. So with both of these exercises, you want to aim to begin with higher reps to create stamina. So 15 to 20 reps on each exercise. Do that for about 2 or 3 sets and then start to increase the sets, so go up to 4 or 5 sets, drop the reps but increase the difficulty, so take the hands across the chest, add weight into the squats, and that's going to help to tone the abdominals, and along with the stretches it's going to loosen up the hips and just get feeling a lot better and stronger and less likely to get injured as well.
Thank you very much to Ben Cooper, and after the break I'll be hearing from the co-founder of Blokes United about what they are doing to combat mental health issues in men. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to The Chrissy B Show, everyone. So far we've heard from our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, who spoke about why she feels men find it difficult to sometimes open up, as well as from Love Talk presenters James and Helena Marquez. So now we're joined by a very special guest, Father Phil Lamb of Hornsey in Yorkshire, who set up Blokes United earlier this year, along with the support of the Just Play Football Development Officer Chris Johnson, to try and tackle the growing problem of men suffering from mental health issues. I'm delighted that he's here to talk to us today. Hello, Father Phil Lamb.
Hello, Chrissy.
How are you?
I'm all right, you?
Thanks so much for coming to our show today. So tell us, Blokes United, very catchy name first of all. Yeah. So tell us how it all began and why it was set up in the first place.
It began about 14 months ago when the local BBC radio station got in touch and asked if I could go on a Blokes Hour. Mm-hmm. And it was around the time that the statistics had come out about young men between the age of 21 and the early 40s who sadly were taking their own lives through depression. And so we'd gone on to discuss it, and the statistics were so overwhelming. The presenter that day said, "So what do you think you're going to do?" And so I said, "Well, I just need to go away and have a good think about this," because it was harrowing, really, to think that men were taking their lives through not opening up.
Mm-hmm. And why in particular did that touch you to actually go ahead and do something? Because obviously I'm sure you help people in your church already, you know, people come to you and open up about things, but in terms of actually setting an organisation up that anyone could attend, why did you feel the need to do that?
I think the church has to get involved in social issues. You know, we're always saying, we need to help the homeless and we need to feed people who are hungry, but we also got to be there for people with mental issues as well. Yeah. And if we're going to be there to support them, then we need to be there to prevent things like this happening. Yeah. And one of which is, it's really to rebuff people can turn around and say, what is the church doing? Yeah. It's too late down the road if people are taking their lives. It's a bit like the horse has bolted, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So it's a case of we can actually turn around and say the church is doing this. Okay.
All right. And then how did you actually go about setting up Blokes United, and what exactly does it involve? How does it work?
It started off as a chat group with myself initially, and then about several days later, Chris Johnson had approached me and said, can we initiate football into this as well? So we can get lads coming out from the four walls, having a bit of banter, playing football, bit of camaraderie, and then having a bit of chat afterwards, but also engage it with the chat groups that I'd already started, so they can move from there to come and have a chat in the chat groups. All right,
and obviously men will probably find it less pressure, I suppose, to talk, because if you're just going somewhere to chat and they know it's sort of, okay, I need to talk about my problems now, maybe it's quite a difficult thing for many men to do, but the fact that you play football, you've got other stuff going on, you found it easier to get men to talk that way?
It depends on the personality. You know, we could have gone, and it has happened, where we've gone 5 or 6 sessions and there's been men who have just sat there and not said anything. And then they've got the confidence and then they'll open up, and that's great. Okay. There's the men who come along who do not have problems, but something could have occurred in their family, and they want to understand why this occurred in their family. So we don't sit around going there. You know, we're not there to feel sorry for each other. We're there to support each other. And so it's like a load of men down the pub having a bit of laughter and a bit of banter, but then slipping in their problems and what's been happening the past week whether they've been having problems down at the GP not listening to me. This medication ain't helping. Have you had that? And then all of a sudden we'll slip in a topic from that week. So we try not to let it slip down to where it becomes somber.
Yeah.
You know, we try.
It takes some skill to do that, though. Can you imagine?
We just it's the nature of the beast, really. It just takes its natural way of being.
Okay. And how has it been going? What's the kind of response you're getting? And
well, overall, with the 2 chat groups, I mean, we started one off in Hornsea where I'm vicar there, and then we did the football, which has been going for like about 8 months, and then we started a Hull one about 6 weeks ago. So we've got the 3rd session tomorrow night when I get back into Yorkshire.
Brilliant. So obviously it's got quite a bit of attention because you also won an award. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, like I put on Twitter today, no one owns Blokes United. Blokes United might have been instigated by myself and Chris, but everybody plays their part. And one of the things that Chris does is he gets us onto shows like this, and he got us on in the Just Play Awards. And we it was a public vote, and we never thought we had a cat and hell's chance of winning it, to be honest. We just put ourselves in. We'd only been going for about 8 weeks. It was, again, the public vote.
You got loads of votes as well.
Yeah, people had to vote for us, and this little town in Yorkshire got on the short list, and we beat 3 centres from London.
That's amazing. How did you feel about that?
I was over the moon, but for the lads, it felt a lot more because there was a bit of recognition.
Yeah.
And a couple of other lads, like I say, I never went down because I had other stuff on. Chris and one of the lads from Hull went down to the Houses of Parliament and picked up the trophy.
That's amazing. Now, and there's also a treat, wasn't there? Because some of you guys got to meet some of the England players.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, we didn't know what you won. We initially was told that we was going to be in a corporate box at Wembley to watch the first England game.
Okay.
So that's what we thought. We were just going to rock up to Wembley, and then next minute it was, no, that's not going to happen. You're going to be at the first Open England training session with Sam Allardyce and the lads, and that's how it was approached. And so about 6 of us went across to Nottingham, and we got straight to a really good day out. Brilliant.
Oh, so what would you say now that the future for Blokes United is? Where do you see this project going?
I'd like it to go the same way as the food bank with Trussell Trust, where it's become infectious and other people have liked what we've done, grabbed it and ran with it. And so that would be the next thing, would be for people to say, we want this to happen here. How do we do it? And we just give them what we've done and say, just go and do it.
Okay. And Phil, for any men watching now that maybe are going through a mental health issue, or they're feeling down about something, maybe even feeling like they can't go on, is there any special message that you'd like to give to them? Any advice that you'd like to pass on?
Like with the famous sporting brand that says, just do it. I would actually just say, just talk. It's the one step that's going to get you on the road to recovery. Unless you open your mouth, you're not going to move forward. And what's a bit ironic is that 2 of our chat centres where we have our chat groups in Hornsey and Hull, you've got to walk up some stairs. So it's one of the bravest things. I mean, we've been told that some men have said, if there's no parking spot, I'm not going to go. Then there's a parking spot, so they've got to park up. Okay. And next minute it's, if the door's locked, I'm not going to go in. So they put all these little obstacles in the way. But both of the centres that we're at have got stairs. And it's one of the bravest walks that some of these lads are doing. But they walk away and say, it's like a weight off my shoulders. I've got somewhere that people, not listen, of course we're going to listen, but somewhere where they feel as if they can talk.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Phil, for coming onto the show today. It's been brilliant speaking to you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, and great initiative, Blokes United. Excellent. All right, guys, so now before we go to break, it's time for a tasty recipe. Now, according to The Guardian, sales of peanut butter were up by 13% last year alone, owing much of its success due to the rebranding as a health food. So in this video, Daniel Shine shows us how to make an easy peasy and super healthy nut butter, perfect after a workout at the gym or an afternoon snack. And as you know, on this show, we always talk about health and fitness and nutrition because all of these things are great for our mental health. Let's check this out.
Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be here to show you how to make your own nut butter today. Nut butter is so good for you, a fantastic source of healthy fats, and all you have to do is choose your favorite nuts. I'm starting off with 3 cups, 1 cup of cashews, 1 cup of almonds, and 1 cup of walnuts, my favorite nut. And then I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, which is a great antimicrobial spice. I've got 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, which is fantastic for the digestive system. And then I go a little bit bigger and I've got a teaspoon of cinnamon. You can put more or less, it's up to you, but cinnamon is fantastic for lowering blood sugar levels. Okay, so before we get started, we're just going to add a little bit of coconut oil, which is a great source of healthy fats as well. I like to use at least 1 tablespoon. You can go ahead and add 2 if you'd like. And I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of a fantastic natural sweetener, honey. You don't have to use honey, you can leave it out completely, or you can try brown rice syrup or maple syrup. It also tastes amazing. So that is how easy it is. Lid on, and we're gonna blend until it's nice and smooth. So I like to keep my nut butter in jars just because it keeps it fresher for longer, and always seal it with a really good lid. Keeps for up to about a month in the fridge or in a cool pantry. If it lasts that long, I doubt that it will. Never lasts that long in my household. And once you get used to making this nut butter, you can then really have a lot of fun. So each time you make it, use some different nuts, use some different natural sweeteners, maybe use no natural sweetener at all, different spices. It's just so much fun to play around with. And it's also so great and healthy for you. Okay, so last thing left is a lid, and there you have it, your own homemade nut butter. Super simple. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.
Welcome back to today's program, everyone. And we've been speaking so far about men opening up. And if you have missed the beginning of this program, don't worry, because you can head over to our YouTube channel in a few days' time and catch the program there. And don't forget to subscribe. So now this is a completely separate section. This is a section that we have on the show every week called Doctor's Answers. And this is your opportunity at home to ask any question that you have, any medical issue that you're going through and you need an answer. You can email us your questions on info@chrissybshow.tv, because our lovely doctor here, Dr. Rob Hicks, is ready to answer all of your questions. Hello, Rob.
Hello, well, I'll do my best, Chris.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, yes.
Right, so I've got a few questions today, so hopefully you can help our viewers.
Fire away.
And just to remind everybody at home that you do remain anonymous. We don't read out any names on your questions, so do feel free to ask us anything. Okay, so the first question, Rob, this person says, I have a red bump on the inside of my thigh. What could it be? White, thick stuff has come out of it. It is really hard and hurts a bit when I push on it. It's too big to be a spot.
Well,
what could it be?
Well, there are a number of things that this could be. Mm-hmm. And one of the important things, you know, with anything on the skin is that you need to see it. So I'm gonna give you an idea of what the most likely causes are, but you are going to have to get your doctor to take a look at it to get the precise, accurate diagnosis and indeed the appropriate treatment. So there are 2 things that spring to mind. The first, and I think the most likely, is that it's an abscess, which is a collection of pus in the skin, which will feel red, it will feel tender, and it will discharge white, sometimes creamy, sometimes yellow pus. What's very important if it is an abscess is that it's treated. Now you can help that process along by using a warm Now if it is an abscess, it's very important that it's treated. Now you can help that process along by using a warm compress. That's simply a flannel, for example, soaked in warm water and pressed against the abscess very gently. Leave it there for about 15-20 minutes. That helps draw the pus out and indeed will help things heal. And you can do that 3 or 4 times a day. Often you will need prescribed antibiotics to treat this, and sometimes you need a surgical procedure whereby a doctor will make a little cut, will drain the abscess, and then will pack it with a material to help it heal. The other thing that it might be, potentially is what's called a sebaceous cyst, which is basically a cyst which gets blocked, but the gland keeps producing this sort of cottage cheesy type material that if it should be pressed or squeezed, it comes out like toothpaste. And it can become red, again, if it becomes inflamed. But bottom line with this, you need this checked out so it can be treated and treated promptly.
Okay, second question. My eyes were perfect a year ago and now I need glasses, plus 1.5 for reading. I have anemia and I'm booked in with the hospital next week for an exam to see why I have anemia. Could my vision be affected by anemia? I'm 45 years old.
Well,
interesting question.
It's a very interesting question, that, because often you've got two symptoms, and you know, sometimes they're completely unrelated and sometimes they may be related in some way. When you think about anemia, there is one type of anemia that may cause visual problems. It's a deficiency of vitamin B12, which can damage nerves, and that could cause visual problems. But my gut feeling is that these are two separate problems. One is with the eye problem, it's actually just age-related problems. It's called presbyopia, which we all get once we pass the age of 40. It means we need glasses for reading, bottom line. And so the first thing to do is go and have your eyes checked, you know, with your optician, get them tested, see whether actually those glasses are strong enough, or indeed whether you need to see an ophthalmologist, an eye doctor, to get a more accurate diagnosis. If the optician thinks that's the case, they will let you know and refer you to your doctor. When you go and see the specialist at the hospital about the anemia, ask them what type of anemia it is and tell them about your vision problems, just in case they are linked. You need to feed this information to the specialist. But my gut feeling is that these are two separate problems that will need addressing, you know, in different ways.
Great, okay, next question. I'm a woman aged 28 with thin, sensitive skin. I have had several burst veins in my life, but for the last 2 months I've had at least 3, maybe 4. Why is this happening? Do I have a deficiency of a certain nutrient or vitamin?
Well,
that sounds painful.
Well, this is another scenario where the ideal is to see it.
Okay.
Because, you know, people talk about, you know, burst blood vessels and they can mean totally different things. So I've seen patients who've described varicose veins as burst blood vessels.
Okay.
I've seen people who've got bruises who actually say, well, the blood vessels burst, which is what's happened. But it could be something called spider veins, which is essentially little veins in the skin that look like miniature spiders. If that's the case, then the way to treat those is actually to not stand for too long, to maybe wear compression stockings to help get the blood flowing. And also, if you really want them to be disappearing, then you could get them injected or you could have laser treatment. Now, those treatments are not always available on the NHS, but you can certainly discuss with your doctor about it. If these things are happening more frequently, you need them looked at, and you may need some tests to see actually whether there's something related to a blood clotting problem. But my gut feeling is that this is more of a cosmetic issue. It might be small varicose veins, it might be spider veins.
Okay. Quite an interesting one here. Does caffeine help runners perform better? My running partner is crazy about energy drinks and he swears that caffeine improves his running times. Is there any proof in this?
That's a fascinating question because the answer is, for people who take part in endurance sports, so long distance running, long distance cycling, that sort of thing, then some caffeine can improve their performance. It's unlikely, or much less likely, to improve performance when it's related to, you know, sprinting, for example, so short bursts of energy. I mean, nobody knows, you know, precisely how caffeine works to help people with their sporting prowess or ability. A couple of theories. One is that it blocks the chemicals that makes us feel tired. Another is that it makes us feel like we're not putting in so much effort, so therefore we feel more able to keep going. And it might be that it helps release the fats into the bloodstream that can be then used as fuel and energy. Bottom line is, we know that caffeine helps, you know, improve our alertness and our concentration, but really you shouldn't rely on one thing. You know, it's a healthy diet, an all-round balanced diet that should be used, not just caffeine.
And the energy drinks aren't great, are they? Really?
No, I think you know, you've got to think about these in very much in moderation.
Okay. Another one. What causes a person's hands to tingle? I'm a 32-year-old mum and my hands sometimes get pins and needles that take a long time to go away. It seems like it happens more when my body temperature goes up.
Well, there are a number of reasons for this. One of the commonest reasons for these symptoms is actually pressure on nerves, and that may be up around the neck or the shoulder, or it may actually be in the wrist. Again, this is something that needs to be checked out, particularly if you've got other symptoms. You know, if they're associated with vision disturbance, for example, or poor balance, then you really ought to see a doctor sooner rather than later. Sometimes it's related to general conditions. It might be related to diabetes, for example, or kidney problems. It might actually be a side effect of any medication that you're taking. But what is important is that you keep a log, so a diary of when it happens. You've already mentioned that it's when you feel warm or you feel hot. You know, keep a diary of the symptoms, what you're doing at the time, what you've eaten, maybe what the ambient temperature is, so that when you see your doctor and get checked up, you might be able to spot an obvious pattern. So, for example, when women are pregnant, they often get swelling within the wrist that causes something called carpal tunnel syndrome. So you actually get these pins and needles in both hands, and you need to give them a good old shake to get rid of the symptoms. So those are the sort of things to think about. But if you get other symptoms in any way, any neurological symptoms, things like, as I mentioned, the vision disturbance, loss of balance, dizziness, that sort of thing, then get along to see a doctor sooner rather than later and get those checked out.
I mean, the diary thing that you mentioned actually is really important, because I know I've been to the doctors before and I get asked questions sometimes, and a lot of the times I don't remember, I don't know when it, and because I haven't kept a lot of dates or anything like that, I can see it's quite difficult for a doctor to kind of help as effectively as, you know, if they would have had that information.
I think it's, if you think of the consultation as essentially an interview, like a job interview, there are two key areas of preparation. One is to prepare the answers to the questions that you know you're going to get asked. Yeah. So if it's pain, for example, when did it start? How long does it last? What does it feel like? Is there anything that makes it worse? Anything that makes it better? Have you had it before? It's remarkable number of people have had the pain before. It's been diagnosed, and the doctor just launches into this interrogation, and then the person says, well, last time it happened, it was so-and-so, and I was given this, and really all I've come for is a prescription, doctor. And as you mentioned, the diary is very good, because often, even before you get to see the doctor, you'll see a pattern emerging. And in essence, you've then made the diagnosis. You know it's every time you go for an extra long run, so therefore you just cut the run down a bit. Yeah,
definitely. It's more helpful. Okay. And got time for one more, I think. So what can I do to help me sleep? I'm a 46-year-old woman and I have suddenly developed trouble sleeping. I try reading, going for a walk, even calling friends, but none of it helps. I've been trying 3 hours max a night and I want to get better. What are some strategies that people can try?
Do you know, Chris, this is one of the commonest problems that face people is problems sleeping. And 1 in 3 of us at some point in our lives will have a problem with sleeping on a regular basis. You know, most of us, practically everybody, will have the occasional night where they don't sleep, but it's a very, very common problem. What I would suggest you do first off is you look at the possible causes. You know, is this because of something stressful in your life, anxiety, depression? You know, is it because you're going through relationship problems? Have you suffered a bereavement? Have you lost your job? Have you just moved? You know, has something changed? Have a look to see if that's the reason, because if you can identify that and resolve that, or at least move forward in resolving that, then you'll find that your sleep improves. The other thing, of course, with sleep is we talk about sleep hygiene, and there's lots of information about that. In fact, I've done a doctor's orders video on how to get a good night's sleep, so you can go onto the website and have a look. But a few things that are included in that is trying to go to sleep at the same time every night, getting up at the same time, avoiding stimulants before you go to sleep, like caffeine, for example, checking the information leaflet of any medication you might be taking that may have insomnia as a side effect. Is it simply because it's too hot or too cold in your bedroom? Is it too noisy? Are you taking, you know, electronic devices like smartphones and tablets, or are you trying to watch telly when you're in bed? You know, the bedroom should be quiet, the right temperature, it should be comfortable, and really we say keep it for sleep and sex and nothing else. So have a look at our doctor's orders video on getting a good night's sleep, and do ask your doctor, you know, for some advice if you're finding that those techniques are not giving you the good night's sleep that you need.
Just a question, because you mentioned the temperature of the room. What is the ideal temperature? Because me and hubby have debates often. He likes the room boiling hot. I can't stand it because I can't sleep. Please, what's the ideal? What should it be?
Well, the ideal temperature for somebody is the temperature that allows them to get a good night's sleep. But you with couples, it's often an issue.
Yeah.
You know, one wants the duvet on, the other wants the duvet off, one wants the window open, one wants the window closed. The sort of ideal temperature is somewhere between 16 and 20 degrees centigrade.
Thank you. He wants it on 25.
But again, you know.
I say 21 is good, please, like 21.
Go on, come to a compromise, get 21.
Yes.
But then there are other ways of keeping the room cool or hot. Extra clothing, extra duvets, you know, maybe single duvets on a double bed. It's still a way of getting the right temperature for both people.
Never separate rooms, never.
No.
Want to be together. Well, we have reached the end of today's programme. Rob, thank you so much for answering our viewer questions today, and I'm sure there'll be lots more for you next week.
Good.
Thank you. All right, guys, and don't forget, if you do have a question for Rob, do email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. Until next time, bye-bye for now. And smile and wave, Phil. Cool. What happened to the light just then? Seems to go really bright as you wave.
I don't know, well, you know, it's my boss upstairs, isn't it?
Did you see that?
I missed it.
Just as Phil waves, just as a light just came.
Well, you know, he's with us. You know.
Do stay tuned, because you're going to be hearing more lovely stuff that we're going to be coming up with for you, our viewers at home. So now, before we head out off...
that you can find through the doctor's answers and doctor's orders. Rob, Rob, it was so close.
Well.
Yes.